Before I begin this story, I want to hear from you. What would you do if your own children betrayed you like this? Drop your answer in the comments, because this is a story you'll never forget. I never thought my own blood would betray me. The children I sacrificed everything for, nights spent sleepless, hands worked raw to feed and protect, now look at me as nothing more than an obstacle. Once their father, I am no longer love, only someone to be removed. My name is James Miller. I was born in a small American town where everyone knew everyone else, where secrets were rare and reputations were built over decades. I didn't grow up with much. My father worked long hours in a factory until his back gave out, and my mother served pie and coffee at the local diner, smiling through exhaustion to bring home a few extra dollars in tips. We weren't poor enough to starve, but we were never comfortable. From them I learned two lessons. Work is survival, and dignity is the only wealth you can pass on when money is scarce. As a young man, I promised myself that I'd build something of my own, something honest. It didn't have to be grand, just solid. After years of odd jobs and saving every cent I could, I opened a small hardware store on Main Street. It wasn't much, just a narrow shop with 2 aisles and a creaky wooden floor, but it was mine. I stocked the shelves myself, painted the sign myself, and when I married Linda, she helped me breathe life into the place. Together we dreamed not of riches, but of stability. And then came Ethan, my firstborn. The day I held him, my heart nearly burst. I remember looking down at that small face and swearing to myself that I'd give him everything I never had. 2 years later, Emily arrived and my world felt complete. My son and my daughter, my reasons for living. Those children grew up in that store. Ethan toddled between shelves, asking endless questions, pointing at hammers and screws with wide eyes. From the start, he had a sharpness to him, a curiosity that always leaned toward money and numbers. How much does this cost, Dad? How much do we make if we sell it? His mind was quick, calculating. Emily was different. She was her mother's soul, through and through gentle, creative, always sketching little drawings on scrap paper, turning them into colorful signs to tape in the store window. Sale today. She'd scrawl in bright colors, and customers would chuckle at her cheerful doodles. For years, we lived simply but happily. I worked long hours at the store. Linda kept our home warm, and the kids filled the air with laughter. Every evening after locking up, we'd gather in the back room with dinner balanced on our laps. Ethan would talk about school, Emily would show us her sketches, and Linda and I would listen, exhausted but proud. Those moments, those were my riches. But life has a way of twisting what you love most into the source of your deepest pain. Ethan grew older and smarter, and I made the mistake of pushing him higher than I ever reached. I saved for years to send him to business school. I pawned my father's old watch, took out loans, even worked weekends just to scrape together tuition. I told myself it was worth it. He'd come back with knowledge that could keep our store alive for decades more. When he left, I hugged him tight and told him, bring back what I couldn't give. But when he returned, he was not the same boy. He walked into the store with polished shoes and a sharp suit, his eyes scanning the shelves not with love, but with judgment. He flipped through the ledger and shook his head. He spoke in terms of profit margins, modernization, expansion. I remember his words even now. Small time is dead, Dad. I brushed it off as youthful arrogance. But in truth, those words cut deep. Emily, too, began to change. She stayed by my side longer, still helping in the store, still smiling, still kind. But I could see the shadows in her eyes when she looked at the finer things her friends enjoyed. When we drove past the big houses on the hill, she'd fall silent, staring too long. She never said it outright, but I knew. She wanted more than what I could give. Still, I trusted them. I believed in them. That trust was my greatest mistake. One evening after closing, Ethan and Emily came into the back office together. Their faces were hard, their posture cold. Something in my gut twisted before they even spoke. Ethan placed a folder on my desk. Inside were contracts, legal documents, and to my horror, my own signature, except it wasn't mine. They had sold the store. Without me, behind my back. My own children had forged my name and handed away the very thing I had built with my blood and sweat. I remember staring at those papers, my hands trembling, my heart pounding in my ears. They explained that it was already done. The money had been wired. The future was theirs to shape. They told me I was old, outdated, holding them back. They told me to step aside, and my Emily, my sweet girl who once drew flowers on sale signs, she stood there with tears in her eyes, but she didn't stop it. She didn't defend me. She chose her brother's ambition over her father's love. That was the moment my heart broke. Not because I lost the store, but because I lost them, my children. The ones I gave everything for. In the days that followed, I wandered like a ghost. The store was gone. The shelves I built, the floors I polished, the sign Linda painted, all of it handed away for profit. Ethan and Emily walked with their heads high, proud of themselves, speaking of futures filled with opportunity. And me? I was left in the dust. I replayed my life in my mind, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every dollar stretched thin, all of it wasted. Betrayal doesn't just wound you once. It replays itself endlessly, cutting deeper each time. And then, slowly, something inside me began to shift. Pain hardened into something sharper. Heartbreak gave way to rage. They thought I was finished. They thought I was weak. They thought they could steal my life's work and walk away smiling. But they forgot one thing. I was their father. I knew them better than anyone, and I knew exactly how to break them. That was the night I began to plan. The night I began to plan, I sat alone in the dark, staring at the papers they had forged. My hands traced the fake version of my own name, my own children's betrayal, written in ink. I should have cried, but there were no tears left. What replaced them was resolve. If they wanted a war, they would get one. I had spent my life giving, teaching, sacrificing. They mistook kindness for weakness, love for blindness. They thought they knew me. They didn't. They only knew the man who tucked them into bed, who paid their bills, who smiled through exhaustion. They didn't know the man who built something from nothing, who clawed his way out of poverty, who survived on grit when life gave him nothing. That man had gone quiet for too long. Now he was awake. My first move was simple: information. If Ethan and Emily were so eager to cut me out, I had to learn what they were truly after. The buyer of the store was no stranger. It was a corporate chain, a big box retailer that had been circling our town for years. Atchin had brokered the deal, convincing them he could modernize and expand on the land I once owned. So my son didn't just want to sell my store. He wanted to build an empire on top of my bones. I spent weeks quietly gathering details. I called old friends, business contacts, even a lawyer I once helped years ago. Every scrap of information became another weapon. I learned that Ethan and Emily had not only sold the store, but also leveraged their share of the sale to secure loans, massive loans. They were gambling everything on fast success, betting the farm on their ability to rise quickly. That was my opening. Greed makes you reckless, and recklessness leaves cracks in the armor. While they celebrated their new beginning, I built my case in silence. I dug into the forged documents. I pulled the original files from my desk, the ones with my true signature, and compared them to the fakes. My lawyer confirmed what I already knew: clear fraud. The kind that doesn't just void a contract, it ruins reputations, destroys credit, and invites criminal charges. I didn't rush. No, rushing would have been mercy. I let them build higher, let them taste success, let them believe they were untouchable. I watched Ethan strut around town, shaking hands, bragging about his new venture. I saw Emily dressing in clothes she once only dreamed of, attending events, smiling in photographs. They thought they had finally escaped the shadow of their father, and I waited. Months passed, and their tower grew taller, shakier. Then, when the moment was right, I struck. I filed my case quietly but thoroughly. Fraudulent signatures, misrepresentation, breach of trust. Every piece of evidence was lined up like dominoes, waiting to fall. My lawyer told me I had them by the throat, that no judge could look at the evidence and side with them. When the court date arrived, I sat across from my children for the first time since the betrayal. They avoided my eyes. Ethan tried to look confident, but I saw the flicker of panic beneath his arrogance. Emily looked pale, smaller somehow, like a child caught stealing candy. The judge examined the evidence, flipping through the documents, listening to the lawyers. It didn't take long. When the gavel came down, everything they had stolen was stripped away. The sale was voided. Their loans collapsed under the weight of fraud. Their names, Miller, were dragged through mud for the entire town to see. In one stroke, they lost everything: the money, the store, the reputation they thought they could build on my grave. And me? I stood taller than I had in years. Not because I wanted their ruin, but because justice had finally arrived. But I wasn't done. Revenge is not just about winning. It's about teaching. I wanted them to feel the depth of betrayal they had dealt me, to understand that choices have consequences that echo louder than ambition. I took back the store, not to run it again, but to let it sit empty for months, a hollow monument to their failure. People in town whispered when they passed by, remembering how Ethan once bragged about his future there. Now it was just a locked door, a fading sign, and silence. I made sure word spread about what they had done. I didn't have to exaggerate. The truth was damning enough. Parents pulled their children away from Ethan and Emily at church. Old neighbors refused to greet them on the street. Employers turned them down for jobs. Their betrayal had not only cost them wealth, but also dignity. For the first time in their lives, my children felt what I had always feared most for them: isolation. Ethan tried to fight it. He shouted. He blamed me. He blamed the system. He blamed anyone but himself. But no one listened. His pride turned to anger, then to desperation. Emily, she just faded. The sparkle in her eyes was gone. The girl who once drew flowers on signs now sat in silence, her hands idle, her future vanished. Did I enjoy their suffering? That's the question people would ask if they knew the truth. The answer is complicated. I didn't laugh, I didn't celebrate, but I didn't pity them either. They had made a choice, and choices come with prices. What I felt was peace. For years I lived with the weight of betrayal on my chest, suffocating me. Watching them lose everything didn't bring me joy. It simply set me free. I no longer carried their knife in my back. I had pulled it out and handed it back to them, sharp and cold. Now, in the quiet of my home, I sit with these memories like ghosts. I think of the children they once were, the little boy asking about prices, the little girl drawing flowers, and I wonder where those children went. Were they ever real? Or were they always destined to become what they became? Some nights I dream of what could have been if they had chosen differently. We could have worked together, expanded the store, built something lasting as a family. But that future was stolen not by outsiders, but by my own blood. And so I live with my revenge, not as a victory, but as a lesson carved into the bone of my life. Trust is the most dangerous gift a father can give. Ethan and Emily walk this town as reminders of that truth. People whisper about them, shake their heads, remember their arrogance. They are still young, but their names are stained in a way that may never wash clean. And me? I'm an old man now, with fewer years ahead than behind, but I stand with dignity. They may have tried to bury me, but they forgot I am the root, and roots cannot be killed so easily. This was not the life I imagined. This was not the story I wanted to tell, but it is mine. It is the story of a father betrayed, of children consumed by greed, and of revenge served not with rage, but with precision. And if there is one thing I want the world to remember, it is this: never mistake kindness for weakness. A father may forgive 1,000 wounds, but the day his children betray him, he becomes someone else entirely,